in the homework help, everyone talked about these a little bit. Do people like evaluate questions, or do we hate evaluate questions? People are like, no, don't let me do them. Okay, so why do we struggle with them, do you think? Do we struggle to know what they're asking for? Do we think all the answer choices sound good? Are the answer choices difficult? Do we know why we struggle with them? Everyone's like, no thoughts. Angelica, why do you struggle? Well, no, you have an understanding of. Jasmine, why don't you like them?
I read the stimulus and then I read the answer choices, and it's like my mind is somewhere else, and none of them match for some reason. So then I got to keep reading the stimulus, and then I just skip them sometimes.
You're like, and then I just give up. These are questions that I did not understand how to attack for the longest time. So our goal of evaluate questions is to figure out what information would do the most to either help or hurt the conclusion. So, because we're evaluating it, right? So whenever it's saying we're evaluating the argument, are we evaluating, we're not evaluating it in the sense of the whole argument, right? We're evaluating that conclusion and what would be helpful in either proving or destroying the specific conclusion. So if I were going to, so this is, these are not super hard question stems. It'll say which of the following would be most useful to know in order to evaluate the argument. Usually it does have the word evaluate in it. These, I don't think these are very tricky question stems. They're not extremely common, but we're gonna think of them as either they're kind of like strengthen and weaken questions all into one. And so you'll approach them the exact same way as you have other questions where we'll read the stimulus first and find the conclusion. We can figure out what's wrong with the argument if you're able to see it. Like why does the premises not guarantee that conclusion? And then should ignore that. I don't think I deleted it. And then for our answer choices, if we know like what's wrong with it, we're going to go through these answer choices. And what I like to do is I'll show you on an answer is I actually make an answer up in my head for the question that's being asked in the answer. So if it said, for example, that all cows are green, therefore we should buy them. And one of the answers said, actually, that's not a good example. I'll just go to an actual question to show you instead of making up one. What I actually do is after I find the conclusion, I go through and for each answer choice, I actually make up an answer and ask myself, does that answer help or hurt the conclusion? And if it doesn't, it's not our answer. So this helps me focus on evaluating the actual conclusion. So let's go ahead and practice this one. So go ahead and read this argument and go ahead and find the conclusion on your own.
Sure.
Like, let me get ready.
Oh, okay. A recent study involved feeding a high salt diet to a rat colony. A few months after the experiment began, standard tests of the rat's blood pressure revealed that about 25% of the colony had normal, healthy blood pressure. About 70% of the colony had high blood pressure, and 5% of the colony had extremely high blood pressure. The conclusion from these results is that high salt diets are linked to high blood pressure in rats.
All right, so our conclusion, it's nice when it says the conclusion, right? So our conclusion is from these results is that high salt diets are linked to high blood pressure in rats. And the reason that we're saying this is because whenever we started feeding it to them, 25% had normal, 70% had high, and 5% had extremely high. What is the flaw here? Do you know, Shanice? If she's there, Shanice, are you there? Okay, if not, Jenny, are you there? Do you know what the flaw is?
I'm here, but I guess they're assuming that the salt is what caused the high blood pressure.
Yeah, so what kind of flaw is that? What do we name that?
I don't know the name of it.
Okay.
Also,
Right. Causal, yeah, correlation.
Oh, I always miss that.
Yeah, so you're okay. No, the fact you don't need to actually know the name necessarily to get it right. You knew it. This is a common. Correlation does not equal causation. Excellent. They're assuming that it's this diet that led to the high blood pressure. Okay. So how we're going to go through for these answer choices is, let's go ahead and do A together, is, so if I were going to do this, I would ask myself, so A says, how much more salt than is contained in the rat's normal diet was there in the high salt diet? So I would make up an answer choice for this. What if it is 100? Does that strengthen or weaken our conclusion? I don't even know it's 100 of what, but it's 100. It does nothing for it, right? Like, it doesn't matter. That doesn't help us solve this flaw. That doesn't help us guarantee that it's the high salt that's causing the blood pressure, right?
Mm.
So I can cross that one off right away. I'm like, that does nothing. All right, what about B? All right, I want everybody, actually, everyone go ahead and try B, C, D, and E on your own. So I want you to practice reading the answer choice, coming up with your answer, and then deciding if that helps or hurts the conclusion. Let's practice this. Let's start with B. Did the high blood pressure have any adverse health effects on those rats that developed it? How did you answer this one, Jenny? In your head, what answer did you make up?
Did the high blood pressure have any adverse? It didn't. I didn't care about that one because, did the high blood pressure?
Okay, so just to practice the skill, let's say yes. Yes,
Oh, okay.
it did have adverse health effects. Does that do anything for our conclusion?
No.
No. What if we said no to this answer choice? Does that do anything?
No.
No. And I agree with you. Like, sometimes we can get to an answer and we don't have to practice actually answering them. I just want to do it now to like kind of demonstrate how we can do it.
Okay.
Okay. So C, let's go with Ashley. What did you think for this one? What percentages of natural occurring rat colonies feed on high salt diets?
I said it didn't help or hurt it.
Right, because like, what if it's 1%? Does that do anything?
No.
No, what if it's 100%?
No, it still doesn't link like where it came from.
Right, and it's also so this thing where we're saying, hey, it doesn't matter if they naturally feed on high salt diets, because we're saying that we're saying that we fed them this diet and these are the results. So the fact that they normally do it, that doesn't mean in their normal life they don't have these same results. Excellent. All right, D. Ronley, what did you answer for D?
I liked this one, but this is always a trap for me because I always pick this type of answer and then I get it wrong. But
so let's say that 1% of the rats studied 1% of rats in the study, or 1% of rats in the study had high blood pressure before the study began. Does that strengthen or weaken our argument?
It weakens the argument.
Are you sure it weakens?
From these results is that high salt diets are linked to high blood pressure in rats. Okay, no, it strengthens it. It strengthens
it. If only 1% had high blood pressure before the study, then it's more likely, right, that the high salt diets are what's causing the high blood pressure, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what if 100%, or let's say 90% of the rats before the study had high blood pressure before the study even began? Does that strengthen or weaken our argument? Malika?
It weakens our argument.
Yeah, because how does it weaken it?
We're saying that most of these rats already had high blood pressure, so it's not the salt that is doing it.
Excellent. Does everybody see how that worked?
Yeah.
All right, and then E, have other species of rodents been used in the experiment of the same kind? What happens if we say yes to this? Yes, other rodents have been used in the same kind of study. Does that do anything?
It does nothing.
It does nothing. It's like, cool. What if we say no? No other studies have ever been, no other rodents have ever been used. Does it matter?
Mm-mm.
No. So you can cross it off. Do you like this approach? Maybe this is different than how you've learned evaluate questions. This is not how I learned them, but this is what helped me with them significantly. Does anybody have any other tips that they've done on evaluate questions that they find really helpful? Or is this just it? You're like, this is it. This is all I need to know.
This is all I need to know, Nicole.
Okay, fabulous. They're fun. I think evaluate questions actually, because a lot of people don't know how to handle them because they don't find the conclusion and then they don't go through the questions and analyze the question based on the conclusion. A lot of people miss them, but you're going to notice they're actually not that hard of questions if you know what you're doing, like what the goal of them is. But I used to miss these all the time because I didn't know the goal of like what I was supposed to be doing.